In this video, we're going to start talking about particular kinds of reactions. There are a few simple types of reactions that I want you to be able to recognize as you go through the course. And each time you see a new reaction, I'd like for you to be able to think about that reaction and figure out which one of the simple types it represents. So our learning goals in this video will be to characterize similarities among reactions, and then I'm going to look specifically at two types of reactions, decomposition reactions and addition reactions, so that we can begin to build our vocabulary and our intuitive sense of what happens in reactions. Now, before I get to decomposition and addition reactions, I want to talk about there's different kinds of reactions. We're going to be focusing on simple reactions at this stage, but there are also things that I would characterize as complex reactions. A simple reaction is one that involves only one molecule or perhaps two collision partners. So it's a very simple process that comes together. We can describe it in great detail, and it's over very quickly. It typically takes one step. A complex reaction, however, might require multiple collisions and many steps. So you can think of it as being a complex chain of smaller reactions that results in one big net reaction. A lot of the reactions that take place in our cells are of this type. So we're going to focus now on simple reactions. There are two variations that I'd like to focus on particularly. There are some that involve a single molecule, and there's a limited number of things that a single molecule can do, but it can decompose, it can break apart, that is, or it can rearrange. That's about it. We also have simple reactions that involve two molecules, and I've listed some of the things that can happen there. They can combine together. That's an addition reaction, which we'll talk about here. They can exchange fragments. That's another way that they can react. Or they can transfer electrons, and we'll talk about that in another video a little bit later on. So let's get into decomposition reactions. Now I'm going to show you in each of these reaction types a very simplistic chemical equation to sort of specify what's going on. In this particular case, we have a molecule A that breaks into two other species. Could be molecules, could be atoms, could be ions. But it breaks into two other species, and so it decomposes from one thing into two. Now, what are some examples? Well, going from lime to limestone, or getting lime from limestone, is actually a process that's used a lot in our local area. We have a lot of limestone, which is calcium carbonate, CaCO3, and one of the ways we process that limestone is to heat it up, and it decomposes then into calcium oxide, which is lime, and carbon dioxide. Another example would be fizzing soda. Soda is basically an aqueous solution of carbonic acid, H2CO3. And when it's fizzing, what's happening is it's giving off carbon dioxide gas and also producing water. So these are two examples of decomposition reactions that are either local to the air or ones that you're familiar with. Now, how will you recognize when you see one of these? I think it should be pretty easy. You're going to look for a reaction that has a single reactant. It has two or more products, and the formulas of those products should add up to the reactant. Sometimes when a chemical reaction is written, if the solvent takes place in the reaction or solvent is produced in the reaction, it may not be listed among those chemical reactants. So you've got to be careful and make sure that those formulas add up to the reactant. Now, what about addition reactions? Well, they're kind of the opposite of decomposition reactions. It's two things come together, A and B, and they create a unified whole, which would be C. What are some examples? Well, synthesis of ozone is a very important example that takes place in the stratosphere, where we have oxygen diatomic molecules that react with oxygen atoms to form ozone. Obviously, we depend upon this to help shield us from ultraviolet radiation. Another possibility is we have hydrochloric acid reacting with 2-butene. And it's a reaction that looks something like this, where basically the two molecules come together to form a larger molecule, which is a chlorobutane, 2-chlorobutane, but it's essentially just an addition of those two molecules with one another, and you can verify that the product is the sum of the formulas for the two reactants. So when you look for these reactions, you're going to look for a reaction that has two reactants, but only a single product, and that single product is got a formula which is the sum of the reactants. So as an activity, I'd like to challenge you to look at these reactions and determine if they are decomposition or addition reactions. So you may want to pause the video, work these out, and I'll come back and give you the answer. All right, hopefully you've had a chance to pause the video and try this out. So what about the first reaction? Well, it's got a single reactant and two products, so probably decomposition. In fact, the formulas of those two products do add up to the reactant, so it is. Then we've got two reactants coming together to make a single product. That is indeed an addition reaction. In the third reaction, we've got a single reactant breaking into two products, and the two products add up to the reactant, so it is a decomposition reaction. And finally, we've got a single reactant with two products, but look carefully. They don't add up to the single reactant. In fact, what we're missing actually is a water that's produced in this reaction, or that takes place in this reaction, and so this is neither a decomposition or an addition reaction. I hope this has helped clarify these two reactions. We'll cover a few more in the next video.